So we welcome everybody to this podcast. This is our sixth podcast already. This time it's with the American director, producer, and also actor, Lloyd Kaufman. Lloyd is the president of Troma Entertainment, the creator of Toxic Avenger, and a very prominent independent filmmaker from the United States, based in New York, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And we are going to talk about what it takes to produce movies independently in the United States, and what are the challenges of doing this, and how one can expand on this, and basically the whole evolution of this process. So my first question would be, what does it mean to be an indie filmmaker in the United States? Has it changed in any way since you started? And is there any way that you can get a support from government or any private subjects, or are you completely independent on everybody?
A very good question. A great question, Thomas. I think, first of all, the the industry has changed. You are correct. And the way it's changed is that the giant international media conglomerates conspire with the government, our government, to put all the power and all the money to make movies in the hands of the giant media conglomerates. We have legalized bribery in the United States of America. Hillary Clinton is an expert at this system, where you don't work, you bribe legally, you use lobbyist, that's legalized bribery. You never work or create anything, you get government jobs, and you use those government jobs to make lots of money, and then you can make anything you want. But if you're an American who wants to create something and start a business, it doesn't matter what industry you are in, you are going to be a victim of the conspiracy of the elites, the labor elite, the bureaucratic elite, and the corporate elite. Unless you know how to handle this culture, you are doomed. So independent filmmaking in the United States of America, it's no way to make a living. It's impossible. It was a way to make a living, but thanks to legalized bribery called lobbying, it is now impossible for any independent artist to make a living unless he, she, or it is partnered with a vassal of one of the giant mega conglomerates. As far as government support for independent filmmakers, there is none. The government here supports the Rupert Murdoch, the giant conglomerates. They don't give them money, but they give them rules that will create a monopoly or oligopoly or cartel, so that the small number of these giant conglomerates control the market and control all the revenue that the public can provide. So there is no chance for an independent to be independent. If you want to make a living and have a house and feed your children, you will have to join up with some giant entity. There are government grants, but then that's for politically correct stuff, and I'm not interested in, I'm not interested in doing a documentary about left-handed coal miners. Not my beat. I'm not interested.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, because that's where most of the filmmakers here are. And
Sure.
when you started, then let's say when you actually wanted to make a film, because you originally didn't really mean to be a filmmaker. Is that correct?
I didn't originally intend to be a filmmaker, no. I was going to do something useful with my life. I was going to be a teacher or a social worker. But unfortunately, I went to Yale University, It was supposed to be a good school. And there I was placed in a room with a guy who ran the Yale Film Society. So I started going to watch the movies that they showed, and I slowly caught the disease of movie addiction, and I decided to devote my life to making movies, and that was a big mistake. Big mistake. Anyway, the good news for you young whippersnappers, that's an American word for a young person, is is that you can make a movie for nothing. You don't need money. You don't need the government, and you don't need the mega conglomerates. You can make a movie now for nothing because the digital revolution has come, and there's all sorts of equipment that you can borrow or steal that will make a movie almost cost nothing. When we were making movies on film, we had to pay a fair amount of money to make a movie. But now you can make movies for nothing. The only problem, for almost nothing. The only problem is you can't live off the movies because the giant multinational conglomerates and the government, and this is worldwide. I'm sure it's the same in your country, although your government may give your local filmmakers a few breadcrumbs so they can survive and, beg like a dog.
Yes, that is true.
So at least you have some chance of getting government support. But my guess is it's still a clique and not a very attractive situation. But if you have a job as a teacher or a nurse or a construction worker, you can save a little money and make a movie every so often. And it doesn't really need the money. You just can't count on your movie to feed and house you. Whereas you could. There was competition in the 70s, 80s, but after Bill Clinton got through, all the power of the media was placed in the hands of a small number of these giant conglomerates through lobbying. These are companies that basically, it's legalized bribery. They go to they work in Washington D.C. and well, you can read about Hillary Clinton and her so-called foundation and how she gives government access in return for contributions to her foundation, which pays her and her husband and her hideous daughter millions and millions of dollars.
Okay.
So if you play that, if you play that game, you need to get in with one of the giant conglomerates. But then you will be censored, and you'll have to play their game. When I started, we could make independent movies and make a lot of money, but no more. That's over. If you want to be independent, if you want to be free, if you want to make art, you're fucked. If you want to make art under the control of a big conglomerate, and you are smart and clever, you can do that. But in most cases, it will be shite. It will be garbage. There are a few decent projects in the mainstream, but most of it's shit. Shite. Sorry. Where, you live in a small town, right? Hradec Králové? Where do you live?
Yes, it's pronounced Hradec Králové.
And it's a small town, right? I tried to find it.
Yeah, about 100,000 people.
No, not so small, not so small. Yeah. Prague is beautiful. I was invited to a little film festival near Prague called Black Christmas, I think it was called. And they showed some wonderful films from all over the world. And they were nice enough to give me a couple of days in Prague. And what a beautiful, beautiful city. And all the nice young people. And it was so nice. It was great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of filmmakers come here to make their films.
and they should. By the way, I saw a wonderful Czech Republic movie. It was a satire about consumerism, and I've been trying to recommend it, but I can't remember the name. It was something where the protagonist takes an ad and says, "Don't come to this field," and kind of through negative advertising, everybody goes to the field, and it's very funny. I saw it a few years ago, and I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, of course. It's called Český sen. In English, it means Czech dream. So you
Yeah,
can find it
yes,
on
that's it.
IMDb.
Yes, I'm writing it down. Czech Dream. Yes, that was a wonderful. Did you like it?
Yes, of course. It was
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah, it was funny. Right? Very good satire and very. I think it says a lot about our values. Not just your values, but American, universal values in today's world. It's very good and funny as hell.
But did you actually come into any contact with Czech filmmakers?
Yes, in at that small festival, there were many Czech filmmakers, very all underground, and we all agreed. This was probably 8 years ago, and I had written my most recent book called "Sell Your Own Damn Movie," and I was agreeing with many of the young people there that file sharing is a good thing. That artists should share their art and and let people see it for free. And everybody pretty much agreed. However, we didn't like the idea of people taking our art and selling it and not giving us any of the money, like the 2 billion Chinese do in mainland China, or the continent of South America and Africa do. But we don't mind sharing our art. We don't mind people looking at it and watching it for free, for no money. We just don't want other people making money off our movies and not sharing it with the artists. And we all talked about that quite a bit. And that is also not a good situation. The Chinese are not only stealing intellectual property, but they're stealing real estate in the South Seas. And it won't be long before they and Putin go after you guys. You're on the front line. They'll be
Yeah,
stealing not just your movies, they'll be taking some of your real estate.
we already have experience with them,
Yeah,
as you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly, sure. Yep,
But
yep,
if I may, since
sure, sure.
you already mentioned that you created Sell Your Own Damn Movie, but
Yes, sir.
you also made the Produce Your Own Damn Movie and Make Your Own Damn Movie, right?
Yes,
So
sir. 6 books. I have 6 books out, and your listeners are welcome to. I think many of them are free on the internet. If anybody wants to translate them, I would be delighted to give you guys a license to sell them. Just give us some money when you make some money.
sure, that's
If you make some money. My
yeah.
books are very good, though. They're very good. They most people who write about making movies don't make movies. The so-called professors very often haven't made movies. I actually have made movies, and I think young people who want to learn can benefit greatly from reading my books, as well as they're very funny.
Yes, of course. I mean, I've
So any
seen.
of your associates who want to translate into Czech, go right ahead. You have my permission, and you can certainly sell them and send me money, or give them away for free. No problem. Either way.
Yeah, that's what I meant back then when I said that we are trying to change things here because people are still not
Sure.
really used to sharing experiences, like the way
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, people here aren't either. People here are still think that they have to get paid for everything. And, that's not the way to look at it. Art is not like bananas. It's different.
Yeah.
Although bananas are pretty funny, I must say. Bananas are a good, funny prop, right? When somebody slips on a banana peel, it's pretty funny. But, right, art is different from shoes. Shoes you sell, you put them on, you wear them, and you buy them. You don't get free shoes unless they're used, right? You buy your shoes. Art is not something that has to be bought. It can be shared. It should be shared. People make art for other people to watch or experience. So this whole notion of Mickey Mouse is copyrighted forever is bullshit. Shakespeare would have been sued when he wrote Romeo and Juliet because he basically plagiarized an Italian play, and he would have been sued based on the American copyright law. It's absurd. Copyright should end after 14 years. At least I don't know how it is in the rest of the world. But here it goes on forever because Walt Disney, who have made billions of dollars off of public domain subjects like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, they want Mickey Mouse to stay copyrighted forever and never be in the public domain, which is part of fascism. It's an element of fascism. That's what we have. We have a kind of, I don't know, it's a very weird world, at least in this country.
I definitely agree that this art that we do, that it needs to be shared. So that's why I actually, all by myself, but it's actually part of Unitedfilm now. We created a website that actually serves as a catalog of the independent films that are free to view. So you can actually go
wonderful.
there.
That's wonderful. I've been there. I saw what you were doing, and it's great. And we have Troma Movies on YouTube, where we have about 300 movies, and many of my make your own damn movie videos are there for free, as well as many public service announcements and short films and many of our features. Just to thank our fans for supporting us for 40 beautiful years. So go to Troma Movies on YouTube. It's all free. In fact, maybe you should put that link on your website.
Definitely. I will also put it into the description of this podcast and everywhere else.
Yeah, good idea. Great idea. Sure, it's all free. To thank our fans.
Yeah, I've seen the videos, so I definitely concur. But
yeah, we put up. If you subscribe, you will get the alerts. We put up new material just about every day. So subscribe, and you get the alerts. You get notified when there's something new.
Yes, and since we already talked about it, then could you tell us a little bit more about establishing Troma Entertainment? Because, that sounds like something that we could actually use over here too.
Well, back in the 70s, there was a chance if you had a commercial movie, you could get into the movie theaters and make money and live. So we didn't want to go and be part of the mainstream. We wanted to own our movies and control our movies. We didn't want people telling us what to do. So we started our company in 1974, and we raised some money from rich people and some poor people. And in those days, the movies made money. And today, they don't make money because the playing field is no longer even remotely even. It's impossible to make money now. If anyone tells you differently, they are full of shit. And the proof is that you will find no independent movie studios that are more than a couple of years old, except for Troma and one or two others. Most of them die immediately. There are always new ones There's always somebody who owns a string of dry cleaning stores who gets bamboozled, gets conned into putting up $2 or $3 million, and because somebody's told them they can't lose, and they always do lose. And they, after 2 or 3 years, they fold, they go bankrupt, or they just quit. And it's not that they're making bad movies, it's that the system has changed. It's no longer competitive. It is now all controlled by these giant dinosaurs, and we are little mice who scamper around at their feet. Most of us get squashed. But Troma has a very big fan base. So we decided we would make low-budget movies so the risk wouldn't be so big. We decided we would put something in the movie that is commercial. You put a gun in a movie, somebody's going to buy a ticket. Americans, I'm sure you've been reading about the wonderful American culture of guns. You know, you're going to sell tickets if you put a gun in a movie, even if you're making a movie about a family of raccoons. Give the mother raccoon a gun, and somebody's going to buy a ticket. There are people who buy tickets for every monster movie. There are people who buy tickets for every movie that has a naked man. I know I do. There are people who buy tickets for every movie that has sex between a man and a woman, or a man and a goat, or a woman and a grapefruit. You put a naked human being in a movie, somebody's going to buy a ticket. And then with some low budget, something commercial, something you believe in. Make a movie that you believe in, something that is meaningful to you, the artist. And that's been our basic formula, if there is such a thing. It's not really a formula, but that was the approach. And it worked. It worked as long as there was an opportunity for a good movie to get to the public. But since then, the laws that, at least in our country, the laws that used to protect the public against monopoly have been destroyed. They've been done away with. Bill Clinton did away with the most important one, which was television. It was required that the television networks show 1/3 of their programming as independent. But so they were required to license independent movies and TV shows. But those rules have been done away with now, and that's why you have the same movie on 2,000 theaters and on this every channel and every place. And there are thousands of movies that nobody even knows about, many of which are very good, but unfortunately the system doesn't permit. It's called an oligopoly or cartel. And the governments are involved in it, and every country has one or two. In the United States, there are about 5 giant conglomerates, but in France there might be 3. England might have 1 or 2 that control the marketplace. So it's virtually impossible for anybody to make a living unless they become partners with the big conglomerate, or a vassal of the big conglomerate, right?
Right.
Become a little dog who begs at the table and gets a few scraps off the lunch that Rupert Murdoch has. You know, sit up and beg like a dog. And the other problem is the kinds of movies that you're going to make for the mainstream. The guys in the white men in suits are going to tell you how to do it. They're not going to let you have freedom. You're going to have to conform to what they tell you. And if you're good at it, you'll be able to make something you are proud of. But that's very rare. We've had many movie stars come out of Troma. We've had many successful people come out of Troma. But most of the people in the mainstream are scum. They're jerks. They're assholes. They are greedy pieces of shit. But the people like James Gunn and Eli Roth and and Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Trey Parker and Matt Stone created South Park. Eli Roth, I'm sure you know, from Hostel and Cabin Fever, and he's a great guy. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are the best. James Gunn is the best. He just did the Guardians of the Galaxy. He came out of Troma from doing Tromeo and Juliet. These are great people, and they are doing very good work in the mainstream, but that's aberrant. That is virtually impossible. They are among the minute percentage who are not just decent people, but they are talented people, and they're able to get what they want from the mainstream. But that is not the case of most people. Most people, when they conspire with the mainstream, they are ruined. And the battlefield is littered with the bodies of dead movie maker careers. There are people who've made one film, and they get a contract with Fox Searchlight, and then the next film they make, the bureaucrats are telling them what to do, and that's the end of their careers usually. You never hear from them again. At least we've been able to keep making movies for 42 years, and the secret weapon we have is that we have, I guess, I don't want to say millions of fans. I don't know how many fans we have, but we have enough fans around the world, I think you might be one of them, who like our movies and make an effort to support us and somehow keep us alive, but we are barely alive. We also believe it's very important for the artist to retain the ownership of his work. Charlie Chaplin died a very rich man because he owned the negatives. He didn't let MGM take his negatives and fuck him. Buster Keaton, who was equally as talented, maybe more so, he died a drunken, bankrupt, ruined person. In large part because the white men in suits fucked him, destroyed his career, and almost let all of his negatives rot. Luckily, basically a pirate, a collector, basically saved Buster Keaton's negatives. That's why I'm in favor of piracy. Piracy does a lot of good things, as long as the pirates don't sell what they're bootlegging. I'm all for it. If they sell, then they should give the artists some of the money.
Yeah, you mentioned Charlie Chaplin. He was the part of...
he owned his negatives. You see, he owned the negatives.
Yes.
Buster Keaton didn't. Buster Keaton not only lost control of his career, he was ruined by MGM and the others, but he died a pauper. And Chaplin... died a very, very rich man. Even though he was kicked out of the United States, even though he was blacklisted and framed for bad things, he was found innocent, of course, and he stayed rich. So we believe the artist should attempt to stay in control of his negatives, his original material.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't bring him any income, at least he controls it.
Charlie Chaplin founded, or was one of the 4 founders of United Artists.
That's correct. Yes.
And that's where we inspired our name with Unitedfilm.
Oh, that's great. Oh, good. Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Of course, it turned out those artists weren't that united, right? They got... They had fights, a lot of fights. They weren't really united.
True. But
the only talented one was the only one that had any talent was Chaplin. The other ones were figureheads. They were actors who didn't have talent. They could act. That's about it. They couldn't direct. They weren't creative, right? Pickford was cute. That's about it. And Fairbanks was able to swing on vines, but he wasn't able to write. Chaplin was the one who made it happen. But again, they got destroyed by the big, nasty studios. Their competition destroyed them.
True, but at least they
Right?
actually.
They had to sell out. They had to sell out. They had to get out. They couldn't stay in. They couldn't keep doing it. Right? They got ruined.
Yeah.
It's still the United Artists still exists, but it's a piece of a Japanese company that makes Walkman. Right?
Yes. To us, it was more like they actually began or they started independent film, you could say. So.
Well, that's not true either. No, the independent film began with Lumiere in France. He began it, and a lot of women would direct movies at the beginning. A lot of independent women were directing movies, and then the men realized, hey, this is we can make money with this. So they kicked out the women, and they took over, and it eventually ended up as the Hollywood system, which controlled the worldwide markets.
Yeah, no, I meant it right in the scope of the United States, that basically a group of people rebelled against the studio system. That's what I meant.
Well, there were other, Columbia Pictures was a Troma type studio originally. Columbia Pictures, there was a whole number of small, they called them poverty row studios. Columbia, which is also owned by the Japanese company that makes Walkman, Sony, they are owned by the same company that MGM and United Artists is owned by. The Columbia was like a Troma. It was a crappy little movie company, but they had talented people, and eventually they were able to grow because there was competition. Competition was permitted. Now competition is not. If you have Gone with the Wind, Thomas, or if you have, whatever, if you have Czech Dream, you won't make any money. They won't let you. Either you'll have to partner up with the big boys, or you die. That was not true back then in the good old days when United Artists started. But before United Artists, there were plenty of small studios thriving because there was competition. There was a permissible, there was the legalized bribery called lobbying didn't exist. The Hillary Clintons of the world did not exist. They didn't rise out of the scum of the swamp that creates the conspiracy of the labor elite, the bureaucratic elite, elite, and those three elites have a club, and they control everything.
I see. Well, thank you for clarifying that. My next question would be, since you mentioned that you can't really make too much money on this, then how do you actually look for money to produce more movies?
We can't. It's impossible because we cannot tell people, we can't tell investors they're going to make money because they're going to lose their money. And anyone who says differently is a liar. We can't ask people for money. We can ask people to give us money that they're going to lose, and I have some rich friends who might give us a little money, but that's about it. There's Kickstarter out there, so your fans and your associates might be able to get some money from fans or from the public. That's a good thing. And the good news, again, you don't need a lot of money to make a movie. If you're young and you know how to work video, if you know how to use digital equipment and you know how to edit digitally, you can do everything pretty much for no money and edit it on your laptop. All your I'm too old for that. I'm ignorant. So I can't do that. But we have young producers here who make movies. Travis Campbell made a movie called Mr. Bricks, a heavy metal murder musical. It cost $5,000 for the entire movie. and it's terrific. And Lemmy from Motorhead gave us a song for it, and we did another movie with some young Canadian boys in Winnipeg. Very cold land, very cold. But they made a wonderful movie called Father's Day, terrific. I can't remember. It was a very small amount, less than 25,000 US dollars. And we're doing a movie in Portugal. Fernando Ale, who made a movie we distribute called Banana Motherfucker. Banana Motherfuckers. Very funny, his first film. We gave him some money, and he's making a movie in Portugal now for very little money. But I don't know how to do that. I've got to make a certain kind of movie, which, unfortunately, that business model, which is, say, $200,000 to $500,000, doesn't work anymore. No good. Can't make it. So I have to tell people, well, you can go with us, but you're going to lose your money. You're going to be making art. That's it. You'll have the satisfaction of Return to Newcomb High Volume 2, and you'll have the satisfaction of being involved with a project that has people's heads being crushed, and but you will make no money.
Yeah.
There is crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, but I think that's a tough one, because if you're an unknown filmmaker and you put up Kickstarter, you know about Kickstarter, right? You have that.
Yes,
you have
of course.
Kickstarter. Yeah, you know. So what makes it difficult there is that if you're unknown, why would the public give you money? Your mother might, but why do you have to go to Kickstarter to get your mother to contribute? Just ask her for money. Ask your cousins and your friends, and just ask them. Why do you have to go on Kickstarter and then tell your friends, go to my Kickstarter and donate? I get that every day. Somebody's asking me to. And Kickstarter takes 10 or 15% of the money. Why can't I just give the money to the person? It doesn't make sense. Big movie star like Spike Lee. Spike Lee owns a mansion in New York, a $30 million mansion, but he goes to Kickstarter and gets the poor fans to give him their lunch money so he can make a mediocre movie. I'm not a big fan of that either, to be honest. So I think Kickstarter, for somebody who's unknown, if you're a young filmmaker, my advice would be to pick a subject that maybe people are really, really interested in, like the life and times of Dubček. Make it a musical. And maybe there are enough people out there who remember Dubček and admire him, and maybe they'll contribute. He actually would be a good movie. That would be a very good movie. My friend, who's a congressman, was in Czechoslovakia. He went there in 1968 to support Dana Rohrabacher. Congressman Dana Rohrabacher went to Czechoslovakia in 1968 to support Dubček when the Russians were coming in and invading again. And his life would be an interesting movie, actually. He ended up pumping gas, I think. Ended up working at a gas station or something. Be a very interesting movie. But the point is, I think unless you, an unknown filmmaker, are making a movie that is about a subject that people who don't know you are interested in, I don't think you can raise a lot of money. But again, you don't really need that much money. If you can get your hands on $5,000 US, whatever many euros that is, or Czech money that is, you don't need that much. You can get friends and family to help you out, get you through post-production. It's just you're not going to be able to make money unless you go in with the devil.
That's true. But crowdfunding seems like a way to go. It just needs to, I don't know, finish its evolution.
The good thing, I think the good thing about crowdfunding is that it's free consulting. It's free. You know, let's say you want to make a movie about United Artists. Let's say you wanted to make a documentary about United Artists. You can put it on Kickstarter, and if it's successful on Kickstarter, it means, yes, there's a public who wants to see the movie. Kickstarter gives you free consultant, free polling, like a pollster. If you hire a consultant, and that's what the major studios do, they hire these idiots to go out and make focus groups, and they pay a lot of money, and they do tracking. They call it tracking. I don't even know what that is. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to find out if the movie they're going to make has a public. Whereas you put it on Kickstarter and you find out right away. We've used Kickstarter, and we found out that yes, our fans wanted us to finish Return to Nukem High Volume 2. If they hadn't supported us, I think we might have just stopped the film. If our fans are not interested, why keep going? But they were interested, and they helped us out. We had a period when we were making Volume 2, Return to Nukem High. We ran out of money, and we needed help. We got through that period, and now we have a little money so we can finish the film. You know, we have our own money now. But the fans got us through the fans got us through a bad period. But we also learned that, yes, there are thousands of our fans who want to see Volume 2. So that's a good thing. And we also made a documentary about the Cannes Film Festival, Thomas, about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, called All the Love You Can, C-A-N-N-E-S, about the Cannes Film Festival. And it's free on our Troma Movies channel. But we thought, let's revisit and see how Cannes deals with Troma 10 years later. So we asked our fans on Kickstarter, do you want to see that? Will you contribute? And they paid for about half of it. So yes, they want to see that. So we decided, okay, if they want it and they contribute to it, we'll do it. So it's free marketing advice, right? Free. It's a really valuable tool, Kickstarter and Indiegogo and whatever those things are. But again, as I say, if you're unknown, you might have to come up with a topic that's interesting to people. I gave some money to Kickstarter campaign. A guy wanted $75 to make potato salad, and I thought that was very funny. So I gave $100. He got $350,000 for potato salad.
Oh yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, I did it just for fun. But again, that's not art. That isn't art. You know, art should come from the heart, from the soul. It should be something you believe. You know, to go and try to find a subject that somebody's going to be interested in, but you're not interested in, that's not art. That's torture.
Yeah,
that's sadism,
true.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So
all of the movies that Michael Herz and I have made, we put up the money ourselves pretty much. At the very beginning, we did go to investors, and at the very beginning, we could tell the investors, the worst that will happen is you're going to make a little money after 2 or 3 years. That's the worst case. So at least we knew we were going to make a little money. And with movies like Toxic Avenger and The Class of Nukem High, we made a lot of money. But those days are over. The bad guys have won.
How did you actually...
Spider-Man wins.
Yeah, how did you actually get money from those projects?
We distributed ourselves.
So
We
selling
went to the,
DVDs or?
well, 1974, there were no DVDs.
Yeah, sorry. Well, either way,
Movie theaters, all over the world. There were
right.
movie theaters, there were independent distributors all over the world because there was competition. If you had something commercial, you could sell it. You could get into movie theaters all over the world,
Hmm.
except for the fascist company. You couldn't get into your country. Milos Forman had to leave your country. You couldn't get into China or Russia, or there was bootlegging. I became pretty famous in Russia, actually, thanks to bootlegging. Enough so that when the wall came down, we actually made some money in Russia from distribution. But because thanks to bootlegging, but I didn't care for that. But
Hmm.
there were theaters in much of the world that wanted our movies. They wanted to make money, and our movies were cheaper. They could get our movies for very little money, but they had to pay a lot of money for James Bond, right? Or Godzilla or whatever. With us, they could get a movie for very little money, and we could make a big profit because our budgets were very small.
Hmm.
Know what I mean?
Yes.
Huh?
So
So it's a different world, is what I'm trying to say.
definitely, I'm just quite curious. Do you actually think that it's worth to work with the professional actors, like get some big names so you can get actually more money?
Well, the industry is fueled by a small number of giant stars. Anything less than the A-plus star is useless, in my opinion. I don't like actors. I mean, I love actors. I beg your pardon. I love actors, but I don't like working with stars. I prefer working with unknown people because I'm the director. I'm the writer and the producer. I write with people. I don't mean I'm the, in other words, I don't sign my movies a film by Lloyd Kaufman, but I'm the boss, and it's about me. It's not about this actor. The actors listen to me, and that's how they become James Gunn, and that's how they become, and they go on to make Guardians of the Galaxy. But when he worked for me, he listened to me, and he did what I told him to do, and he was a genius. And Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're genius. But I'm not interested in the star. In fact, I think the stars are a problem because no matter what movie George Clooney is in, I just see George Clooney. I see a guy with big teeth and stupid looking hair, and that's about it. I don't, and I'm sure he's talented, but I'd rather see somebody who looks like a real person who I don't look at first and say, hey, that's George Clooney. I'd rather see an unknown person in a good movie because then I can be in the movie better. And my movies are all unknown talent. I much prefer working with unknown talent. But I think the big mistake in fact, I just acted in a movie last weekend. I acted in a movie, and they had people who were not actors in the movie, and that was stupid. It was stupid because there are plenty of talented people who will work for free. They were lazy, I think, whoever it was. They shouldn't have used the people who were no good because they wasted a lot of time on set. The performance stinks, and it hurt the film. And I see this very often with the young new filmmakers. They don't take the time to cast their films with good talent. And there's so much talent everywhere. There are so many young people who are so talented. And there are old people who are talented too, but it's harder to find them. But you can find them. And I think that's a big mistake the young filmmakers make. But as far as a star goes, it won't help you unless it's somebody way, way, way at the top.
Hmm. Okay. If you look at the lineup of the movies that you support or produce, then
Yes, sir.
you are in a very specific niche. And how do you actually perceive or like this? Do you think there is a bigger interest in what Troma produces or the mainstream horror movies?
Well, the mainstream horror movies spend $100 million on advertising. We spend no money on advertising. So how can there be interest in our movies when nobody knows about them?
Hmm.
And again, I'm not saying are there any good mainstream horror movies? Do you know of any? I can't really think of too many.
No.
Right? There, I think that there are people like, there's a small number of talented people. Del Toro is very talented. James Wan is very talented. There's a great horror movie in Norway now, and but they're still they can't make it without being partners with one of the giant companies, and they can make it work. Guillermo del Toro is a great artist, and he can make it work in the mainstream. But he is one in, I would say, 100,000. James Gunn, who did Guardians of the Galaxy, a great movie, he is one in 200,000. Eli Roth is a great, wonderful person, gets what he wants, but I'd say he is one out of 500,000. I think it's, and who knows how long they're going to be allowed? Who knows? Who knows how long? Who knows how long it'll take before the white men in the suits gang up on them? The committees, right? The notes. You know, these idiots give you notes, right? They give you notes, what they call them notes.
And what is it?
They tell you what to do.
Oh.
Have you noticed every mainstream movie has 15 producers, right?
Of course.
So how do you make art? How does Picasso, if he had 15 people with him painting, how would his work be any good? How would Milos Forman's movies be any good if he had 15 producers telling him what to do, right? That's why most of these movies suck, because it's an elephant put together by 15 blind men and maybe one woman.
Yeah, that's what I like about independent filmmaking, that you are actually even independent on like what others think about your film. You just do what you like.
Well, that's liberating. That's a very good point, Thomas. We can take us. I've taken 6 years to make this recent two-part movie, Return to Nukem High. Volume 1 is finished and we're distributing it. And the second half, Volume 2, has taken another 3 years. So the total is 6 years. But nobody wants our movie. So why do I have to rush? Why rush? What's the purpose? We have no distribution, right? We're not going to get on HBO. That's owned by Time Warner. We're not going to get on the Sony, Columbia Picture, MGM, United Artists platforms, because they don't let independent movies in unless they own them or control them. So we don't have to get our movie ready for Christmas. That's Peter Jackson's job. He has to get his movie. So in a way, it's liberating, and we can be more and more free, because as we get less and less economic help, as we make less and less revenue, we don't have to worry. Gee, are we going to lose the public because we put somebody taking a shit or whatever? Or is that going to be uncommercial? It doesn't matter. We can have Gone with the Wind. We could have James Bond. We could have Mickey Mouse. We could have Spider-Man, and we would not make any money with those either.
So you would say, ultimately...
The proof is that you should go out and find other independent movie studios who have been in existence for more than 2 years. You won't find any. You'll find a small number, and they'll be gone. They'll be gone. You'll find maybe 2 or 3 American movie studios that are 5 years or older. Troma is the only one that's 42 years. We're the only one. And it's not because these companies are making bad movies. They're making great movies, but they're not permitted the system does not permit them to enjoy what a fair market, what a level playing field should permit them to enjoy. So if you are an artist, if you're going to make your own damn movies, you've got to be prepared to have another source of revenue.
Yeah, so at the moment...
join up, or join the man, join the big man.
Yeah, but right now you can't really make a living from what you do.
Definitely not. Nope.
Okay.
We are motivated by love of cinema. That is it. And we are fueled. The secret weapon we have is our fans, because we have hundreds of thousands of them, and enough of them search and find our Blu-ray or DVDs or our Troma Now. We have a streaming channel called Troma Now, which you can subscribe for $5 a month. Enough of them make sure we survive. Just enough so we survive. Just enough. So we keep going. But no other studio has that kind of fan base. Nobody. And that's been our mission for almost 50 years, to build up the fan base, to interact with the fan base and to talk to them and hear what they're telling us and take their advice and be in contact, interact with the fan base. And I think to that extent, we've done a pretty good job.
So, can you tell me more about the activities that you actually do with Troma? I know that you have some internet presence through YouTube, and you also travel around the world and meet other filmmakers. Sometimes you introduce their films. So,
yes.
How much do you actually do for this? I can see that you are quite dedicated, so that's very inspiring.
Well, the books, I've written 6 books. That was all done to try to show young people a different way and to remind people that art is not something you buy, it's something you create. Troma has its own streaming channel, a very nice, Troma Now it's called, Troma Now. It's on VHX TV, VHX. First month is free. People can go and watch all the movies, the world premiere movies for free. And then after a month, it's $5 a month. And then we have Troma Now, where we have 300, all our library is free. Troma Now is the world premieres, and then Troma Movies are all the Troma classics and the Troma library and the movie lessons, make your own damn movie videos, short films. Right now we are doing the sound design for Return to Newcomb High, Volume 2. We're producing a movie in Portugal, as I mentioned, called Mutant Blast. We shoot lots of short pieces. We're doing something today for the introduction to the Blu-ray we're making for VHS Massacre, which is a documentary about VHS times back in the 80s and 90s when the VHS cassette was dominant. We have a very good documentary, and we're making we're producing the introduction to the Blu-ray. I act in many movies, as I say, to help young filmmakers. If I'm in a underground movie, when do you want me? Hold on, Thomas.
Peter's here, so he's...
Who's here?
Peter for the
they want us to do
cameos.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe wrap up in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Thomas, I got to wrap up. I've gone longer than I said I would. I got to go and be in a movie right now to help somebody.
Okay.
In fact, the guys who made Hectic Knife, which you can see world premiere on Troma Now, they're doing a new film, and they asked me to play a cameo. If I'm in that movie, the Troma fans will support it. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Kim Sonderholm made a movie in which I appear in Denmark, and I think he was all the Troma fans helped him out.
Yes, I saw it. It's called Harvest.
How was it?
Good.
How does it look good? Oh, good. I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
seen it, but he's a good guy, very nice guy.
Yeah. We are friends on Facebook, and
Oh, good,
yeah.
good, good. So I'm in movies in England and France and Canada and Japan,
Hmm.
and I find it interesting. I enjoy it, but also it helps the fans the Troma fans will support a movie that I'm in, but also if I'm in a movie and I'm president of Troma and creator of the Toxic Avenger, the director can say to a horror movie star, "Hey, Lloyd Kaufman's in the movie. Why don't you be in our movie? And we can't pay you what you get for Friday the 13th, but we can pay you, something."
Hmm.
And that way, the star sees that they're serious. That they have. If I'm in it, if Lloyd is in it, then this director must be somewhat serious. So I'll trust him, and I'll work for less money than I usually work.
That's great. So, how much time do we have before we have to run off?
About 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'll be
If you
really
want,
brief.
we can do it. Continue. You can do a half now, and can do this another day. You can set up another time with John Brennan, and
Yes,
then I can.
I would like that.
Okay, just work it out with John.
Okay, so I only have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is I would also can you tell me how or what James Gunn is doing, because I was also trying to invite him, but I just can't.
He's making volume 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy. These guys, when they become very successful, they're not in touch with me every day. In fact, it's not that easy to get in touch with them. He
True.
put me in He put me in volume 1. He gave me a cameo. I don't know if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but
Yes.
I have a nice little piece. But volume 2, I'm not in volume 2. So he says because I got killed in volume 1, therefore I can't be in volume 2. But I think these guys get very busy. Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They got, and everybody wants something from them, and I don't really want anything. So I don't really have much contact.
So
And they don't really have much reason to talk to me other than, if they happen to run into me, they're always nice.
okay, and my last question for now would be, if actually there was somebody here in this country, in Czech Republic, who would want to be part of Troma, then do they actually have a chance? What do they have to do for that?
We have volunteers who work here, and it's kind of like going to film school. We have young people who, instead of film school, or maybe in addition to film school, they volunteer and they work at the Troma building. We own a building in New York, and they work on short films that we make all the time and videos. And then when we make a feature-length movie, they come on and work their way up the food chain and maybe get a job where they get paid. So when we made Return to Newcomb High, we had about 80 people that came from all over the world, from Japan, from Australia, from Portugal, from Canada, from California. They came to Niagara Falls, New York, and they all slept on the floor and learned how to take a shit in a paper bag and all that kind of stuff, just so they could work on a Troma movie, and basically almost for no money. They got a little something. They got free food, and they could sleep on the floor in a vacant funeral home. But these were all Troma fans from all over the world. They all came together, France, Germany, all over the world, about 80 people. And they lived together for 3 months. Basically, we fed them and housed them. That's about it. A little teeny bit of money. But it's basically working for free. And if anybody wants to have that experience, come on over. American film schools cost $50,000 a year. We could probably charge people to work on our movies and say it's a film school, but we don't do that. But there are people who do that. There's a New York Film Academy, which is some kind of money-making machine where people pay to go and doesn't. You don't even get a real. I don't know what it is, to be honest. But the point is, people have to pay to go to NYU or USC, New York University, University of California. It's 50 or 60,000 US dollars per year to go to film school. You can make about 10 movies for 50,000 bucks.
But what
I'm
about?
not against film school. I'm agnostic, but I think you can get an awful lot out of the Troma experience. You can also get the inside view of what it's like being independent filmmaker, and maybe decide that's not what you want. You know, maybe that's the first step for somebody, like Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Before they did South Park, they started with us with Cannibal the Musical, and then they had something to take to the big shots, you know, and then they got the gig to do South Park. James Gunn had to start somewhere. Troma's the place to start because we're kind of famous.
Yeah.
And the next step is, if that's what the person wants, the next step is move up the food chain and sell out. I don't mean sell out, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
And I keep saying it, there are a small number of people in the mainstream who are wonderful and the best people in the world. And Trey Parker, James Gunn, Matt Stone, Eli Roth, they are great people. They're terrific. You won't find better people than they are. They are doing very well in the mainstream, and they're not the scum of the earth. But the other 99.9% of the people in our industry, in fact, in the independent industry too, I would say about 99% of the people are scum of the earth. And the movie industry is full of scum, full of horrible people. And the young person should get into this industry. If he or she or it want to make a lot of money, then they got to go to where the green light happens, which is California. They got to go that way. If they want the Oscar and the hookers and the drugs and the mansions and all the red carpet and the $200,000 dresses that they can wear at the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, or what's that festival you have? A snotty festival in Czechoslovakia?
The Black Christmas?
Huh?
You mean Karlovy Vary?
Yeah, right. If they want to go there, right, they can't get into that. They're going to have to be with some big shots.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be in with the big shots, the Carlo, whatever it is. All the festivals are corrupt, pretty much. Right? They're all a club. It's a clique. You got to get in with them. If you want to be a real artist, then try the Troma system. But you have to decide what you want to do. That's the main thing.
But can actually a European filmmaker be also distributed through Troma?
Sure, we've got a lot of non-American movies.
Oh, cool.
You bet. Yeah, sure. We distributed Dario Argento's Stendhal Syndrome. We're distributing some Japanese movies. We're distributing an Italian movie right now called 30, I think it's Italian, 30 Coins. Maybe it's Spanish. But yeah, we've got quite a number of films we distribute. But they're not making money, I'll tell you that. And the filmmakers know it, but they figure the Troma name is prestigious, and that they can use our name to step up the ladder to bigger and better things. And we're honest. That's the other thing. We've been around for 42 years. If we were dishonest, we'd be gone. The dishonest people don't last very long. Their companies don't last long. They may, there are a lot of crooks in this business who've been around for many years, but they keep opening and closing companies. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for a young starting off filmmaker, Troma, if they can't get in with the big shots, if their first film is not something that the Paramount Pictures wants to distribute, Troma's the best way to go. Unfortunately, you can't make any money, but you have the prestige of the Troma brand, and you've got credibility in the industry.
Yeah.
So I have to wrap up now because they're waiting for me to film something.
Sure. So
but you can set another chapter of this with John.
yes. So I'm just gonna do a closing word.
Sure.
So thank you, Lloyd Kaufman, for the interview for Unitedfilm. It was great. It was a lot
Well,
of
thank you, Unitedfilm, and thank you so much, Thomas. Your English is terrific, and I can see that you are a shit disturber in your own right, and that you're going to make the world a better place, and you're going to support people who are genuine artists, and thank you very much. And I hope that Unitedfilm and Troma can forge a long-standing friendship and support system. And any of your viewers who want to get in touch with me, I answer all my own Twitter, at Lloyd Kaufman on Twitter, and I answer everything myself. And I also have a fan site, lloydkaufman.com, and they send me, if you contact that website, lloydkaufman.com, they send me the mail. But Twitter, I look at every day and I answer everything.
Great. We will
Okay.
definitely support you, so no worries.
Well, and if I can be of help, any of your fans have questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
I'm Uncle Lloydie, and thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you too. Have a good day.
All right. Best wishes. Bye-bye.